if all black people had life insurance policies, then no one's house is getting repossessed after the main breadwinner dies. No one is being left without. I think black women are some of the most influential people on the planet. Why do you need a brand new car that you're going to pay £400-500 a month for 2 to 4 years? And then at the end of it, you still got a balloon payment to pay? Okay, to be fair, it's not that I don't think people should have kids. My stance is...
Hello everyone, welcome to this week's episode of the Mr. Money Jar Show. Today we are joined by a man I admire, John, aka Prof MiMS, aka Prof Make It Make Sense. He is a TikTok creator, qualified financial advisor, parent, business owner, and we really cover a broad spectrum of topics in this conversation. We start off by talking about politics, we talk about property, we talk about how to increase your income, being a parent, how to build wealth, and something that really comes across in this episode is the importance of ownership, particularly within the Black community. Jonathan has a lot of nuggets to share in this episode, so if you stick with us, I'm sure you'll enjoy it. John.
Hello.
You are a qualified financial advisor.
Yes.
And a content creator with over 130,000 followers on social media. So
correct.
Please tell us who you are and what you do.
My name is John. I go by Prof Make It Make Sense or Prof MiMS, MIMS. I make content about finances. I make content about careers. I make content about current affairs and what's going on in the world that are particularly going to affect us in the UK. My page was kind of designed and created to help people from lower socioeconomic backgrounds, people from my background as well, that maybe wouldn't have had someone explain a lot of things to them. I know for myself and for a lot of people that I grew up with, no one was teaching them about personal finance. No one was teaching them about how to fill out a self-assessment or what a self-assessment was. No one was teaching them about stocks and shares ISAs or cash ISAs or investment and how to do it. But at the same time, no one was telling you how to write a CV and a cover letter. Or different ways that you can negotiate your salary at work. So for me, I just thought that it would be fitting for me to be that person, because I suppose for most people, they look at me and I know this to be a fact because they've said it. They look at me and I've got tattoos, I've got a sleeve, I've got a nose pierce, and I wear earrings, I wear jewelry. And I don't fit into that box that most people who know a lot about finances or deemed to know a lot about finances have, or know how to scale the career ladder have, but I have been able to do it really well. And I want to kind of pass that on to other people. I want to give back to the community that have also given me a lot over the years, and I've enjoyed. So it's just my page is like a passion project to help people, really.
And I mean, from the moment I saw your content, I would say maybe a year and a half ago, it instantly hooked me because I'm always looking out for people from the community that are speaking about it. I create content about money as well. And your growth has been awesome. I think when I first came across your page, you're at 55K on TikTok and now it's doubled.
Yeah, 130K and counting. I'm focusing a lot now on Instagram.
Yes.
I was doing a lot more on TikTok. That's where I started. And now I'm trying to kind of flesh out YouTube, flesh out Instagram, but Instagram and TikTok are two very different beasts.
Yeah.
But I've managed to grow quite quickly. We're trying to get to first 10K followers. We're at 7,000 and change at the moment. Close to 8,000. So we're not where we want to be, but we're still growing, and I'm starting to figure out how to utilize the other platforms as well.
Yeah. What I find interesting though is when I went on your TikTok and I was researching you. When you filter by popularity, your most popular videos actually have nothing to do with finance at all. I believe your most popular video is about Strep A.
Yeah, that was actually one of the videos I did very early on when I was making content. Like for those people who followed me back then, I had like a blue balaclava on, which then changed to a yellow balaclava. And I think that just came from, I wasn't super confident online. Like I was never a content creator. I didn't put myself on camera. If you even like followed me on Instagram, I didn't post pictures of myself. I'm quite, I know it seems hard to believe, but I'm quite a private person. So for me, I had this determination to show that you could look any type of way, and it was quite drastic in the way that I presented myself, but you could look any type of way and still have a real big breadth of knowledge in something that people don't believe that you have. obviously my degree was in biology.
Okay.
Undergraduate degree was in biology. My master's degree was in biomedical engineering. So I have a really strong background in the biological sciences. So when I started making content, it was about how can I show to people from my background, from lower socioeconomic backgrounds, that you can make money, you can know loads of interesting things, and you can forge a career without having to go down various nefarious routes.
Mhm.
And for me, it was biology. I was really good at it from the beginning. So I stuck with it. And then when I was making content, I'm there pitching it with my partner, being like, what do I talk about? And she's saying, well, talk about what you know.
Mm.
And I knew biology, so that's why I started. And that Strep A video happened when there was a big Strep A outbreak in the UK
With kids,
with the
right?
kids in
Yeah.
school.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I understand it. Let me just break it down for people to understand. And I think that video alone got me like 15 or so thousand followers. Like it did really well. And I did a few other videos about bacterias and viruses and illnesses and diseases and stuff, which was interesting to me. But I think at the time, soon after, I realized biology wasn't really something that I know as much as I used to when I was really in it.
Mm.
I'd kind of moved away from biology, and it wasn't content that I felt would be as helpful to some people. Like, it's entertaining, but how practical and practically helpful is it to people? Which is why we then changed to explaining what's going on in the world and helping people understand that, and then talking about finances and sorting out your jobs, because these are also areas that I probably have more recent experience with.
Mhm. Well, let's help some people.
Okay.
And let's talk about money.
Right.
So
Cool.
you've done a video where the title was "Why You'll Never Be Paid a Fair Wage in the UK." So why is that?
I think there's a few reasons in the UK. British society is quite complex. But the main reason that I determined was that there's power in numbers. And one of the ways in history that the British population have made sure that they're treated fairly by the private industry and the public industry is by unionizing.
Mm.
We've seen the unions give us 5-day working weeks rather than 6-day working weeks, stop child labor, maternity leave, sick pay. Like, the list goes on. Anything that you can think of that's beneficial in your day-to-day life when it comes to your work and your career is usually done by the union.
Yep.
But then 1970s came along. There were a load of strikes, 1978, 1979, I think. Then by 1980s, the Conservative Party came in with Margaret Thatcher. They passed a load of legislation, a load of acts that basically pulled the rug from underneath the trade unions' feet, right? They stopped in-person ballots. You had to do it by mail, which made it more expensive, made it more drawn out. We had things like two companies that weren't associated with one another couldn't do sympathy strikes. So one company could pressure another company by getting both organizations, the staff of both organizations, to strike together. They stopped that. They stopped unrecognized unions from calling strikes, and then gave them fines if they did. You had to give notice for strike. Like, the list goes on and on to really block and hinder unions. And since then, things have not really gotten any better. We are now left in a world where, or a country at least, where every negotiation happens individually. If you want to, and the content does really well, right? If you want to negotiate your salary, these are the things that you should do, which is fantastic. It's great to know how to negotiate. But do you know how much more powerful it is to negotiate when you've got hundreds or thousands of people behind you all negotiating together, right? We've seen that the train strikes recently been happening in London, and people are up in arms. It's inconvenient, but then the train drivers are making like 70 to 80,000 pounds a year. They are of the best paid public transport workers in the country.
Yeah.
Why do we think that is? Because their union is really strong. So I think we kind of geared against unions, and it was the same thing in the summer of discontent in the 70s, where, the public sector started striking. They weren't clearing the snow in the roads. They weren't emptying the bins. Again, we've seen it recently with Birmingham with the issues that they've had with striking of the bin men. And people are, all of a sudden, they're like, well, your inconvenience is too much. So now I don't care about how much you make. But forgetting in the same breath, they're inconveniencing themselves. And also a lot of people don't understand the impact of inflation when it comes to their salaries. They don't understand the impact of not moving the taxation thresholds in line with inflation as well, right? Which is a stealth tax that it can be quite complex to understand, and people kind of just brush it under the carpet. And you think, oh, well, I've been paid, I've got a 4%, 5% raise or a 10% raise over a number of years. I'm doing okay. But actually, when you think about where the tax thresholds are, you're not really. And also when you think about inflation, that increase isn't really crazy. Like you could get a 3-4% increase every year, but if inflation is matching that, then you're kind of just staying at the same. And if that then pushes you into a higher tax bracket, you're actually worse than you were before. So there's a load of things that I think are contributing to the fact that people aren't being paid a fair wage and why people are struggling so much in the UK. And I try to get that across. It's not always the easiest, because when you are making finance content, you have to give the information and education in a way that's palatable but also entertaining. Right? And that sweet spot can sometimes be difficult to hit, but I think it's an important distinction to make. I think these are important things and topics to talk about.
Yeah, I grapple with that too. When it comes to inflation, I guess what I try to say to people is your money loses its ability to buy the same amount of stuff over time. So it's like the nominal value of the money stays the same, but year in, year out, the price of things goes up around that money to the point where when you then go to buy things, you can buy less stuff.
Absolutely. Do you know, it's not a complex, it's not, I mean, to the right mind, it's not a complex idea, but it's difficult to explain. But once you get it, you get it. But it can sometimes be quite difficult to explain to people.
And the same with the freezing of tax thresholds. The best analogy I've been able to come up with is, if you keep tax thresholds the same, then as you get paid more and more, you're going to slip into those higher tax brackets and then have to pay more in tax. And it's almost like you have a growing child, but you keep the size of their clothes the same.
That's a good one. I like that.
Do you know what I mean? So that child is going to get squeezed. Like the more and more they grow, you need to up the clothing size, up the shoe size as that child gets older.
But I also find it's in the same breath, that conversation of inflation and also the creep of tax thresholds is just as difficult as explaining to people that actually making over £100,000 a year, you will get more money, but the tiers of tax become bigger. So it's not that you'll be worse off because I hear that a lot of people are like, oh, I don't want to make this much because then I'll be taxed more and I won't get as much money. And it's like, well, not quite. There are things in place where you can, hit the 60% tax trap, but invariably, if you're getting that much money, you're still going to be making a lot more money than if you're on 50, 60K. Do you know what I mean?
So you've given some of the wider context as to why perhaps the individual employee has less power than they used to. But I've also seen you say online that, if you, something along the lines of, if you don't create content, then you don't like money or something like that. So what kind of levers can you pull to increase your income through, I guess, 21st century methods of making money?
The reason I said that is because I think you're not really going to be making serious money currently if you don't have ownership. And one of the best ways to push your ownership and create ownership is through creating a personal brand or creating a brand. I think back in the days, we're talking 90s, 80s, 70s, all the way through the 20th century, you get a bricks and mortar shop, you set yourself up, you have footfall, people come in, there's no internet, especially if you're going into the earlier 90s, you've got no internet. Google was in 1999, I think it started, or around late 90s. You've got footfall, you're marketing with leaflets and people going out and doing stuff. And now everything is online. So if you want to open a brick and mortar store, that's fine, but it's going to cost you a lot. There's so much outlay. But if you open your online store, which is free, opening an Instagram account doesn't cost you any money. Opening a TikTok account, a YouTube page, these things don't cost you any money. And you're educating people about the need for the product that you're creating or service that you're creating. So I think in 2025 or in the 21st century, if you want to start a business, you have to be making content. I don't think that there's a choice anymore. There are certain businesses that have a history of kind of being offline. But even when you look at the public services, that don't really have to be online, but they will.
Mm.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the NHS doesn't need to be online, but it is.
Yeah.
Like in the way that they market things and tell you about what's going on. They could email you or call you or tell you on your next appointment, but they have an online presence because even they acknowledge the importance of it.
Could I ask you a selfish question then? Because
Yeah,
I have 10K followers on TikTok.
doing your bits.
I would like to have more.
Yeah, we all would.
So you have grown to 130K.
Right.
How do you grow on socials? Opening it is free,
Yeah.
but growing it is a completely different thing altogether.
To be completely vulnerable with you, TikTok is not an easy thing. Social media content creation is not an easy thing. I was one of the fools that when I was younger saw all of the IG people and TikTok people being like, it's so easy, I could do that. It's not a problem. Now being on the other side, it is a slog. And I think you have to be realistic about that. I've had periods where I've gained 50K followers in 2-3 months. And then I've had periods where it's taken me 3-4 months and I've gained maybe 1,000 followers. Right now, as I develop as a content creator and I change the things I talk about and I change the way in which I present the information that I'm talking about, we transition and we have different interests that we want to convey and it changes. And I think it's a matter of consistently turning up, trying new things, speaking to different audiences, covering a range of issues that you think are relatable to people. But more than anything, and everyone will tell you this, it's just being there. Being there, turning up every day. You're a familiar face, you know, and after a while, I think someone called it the radio effect. When a song's playing the radio enough, it can grow on you. And then you know the voice. You can even recognize the voice. So, you know, sometimes you'll listen to like an advert and it'll be voiced by a celebrity. Their name won't be anywhere, but you know who they are because you've seen them in enough stuff, right? And I think it's sometimes the same with content creation. You have to turn up, you have to be there, you have to continuously try and improve, see what's there, gain inspiration, but try to be original. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't work. And when it doesn't work, you charge it.
Charge it to the game.
You charge it.
Yeah.
Like, okay, that one didn't work. Let's focus on the next one. Because
Yeah.
it's really easy for it to not work and you just go, yeah, let me just hang up my boots. Like
Yeah,
it's a long day. But I think it's more important for you to persevere. And that's the school of hard knocks I came from, where it's like, if it's not working, you try again. You keep on trying until it works. And I think that's a great mindset to have regardless, because no matter what business you open, no matter what your goal is, if you're not dedicated, if you don't believe it's going to work for you, it won't. When I started making content, did I think that I'd be sat here on this podcast seat talking to you? No, I didn't. Do you know what I mean? I didn't really know what my plan was or what would come of the content, but some amazing things have happened over the past 2-3 years I've been making content. I wouldn't change it for the world, but I know a lot of those things wouldn't have happened if I didn't turn up every day, sunshine or rain, whether I've got responsibilities, whether I'm sick, whether I'm on holiday, whatever it is, I turn up and I make content. Do you know?
Yeah, no, that's very, very useful to know, and useful for me in particular as well, because I think something I need to work on is my consistency. I think I built a good brand, but do I show up?
Amazing brand.
Thank you.
And you have to get your flowers for that. An amazing brand, bro.
Thank you.
It's been really nice seeing you. And I'm taking a second here.
Yeah,
it's been really nice seeing you from when we first had our video chat a few years back.
Oh, yeah.
Our initial video
that
chat
first
a few
call.
years back.
Yeah.
To now seeing you like and the things that you're doing and where you're going in around the world and talking. And I think when we originally had the conversation, we were talking about how it is to be a black face in the UK talking about things that isn't traditionally seen to be black topics. You know, we had the conversation of when you're seen in this eye of entertainment or sports or singing or rapping, but actually you've got a load of black content creators that are talking about business and finance. And then do people automatically look at you and register you as a viable voice in that space? So to see you get to where you've gone to over the past 2 years that I've been looking at your content in some detail, very inspirational stuff.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm going to keep on going. I'm going to try and be more consistent as well. The last 5-6 years have been really good, you know, building a brand, building the business, but I have big plans for the next 5 years as well. So I'm sure
I like
you do.
to hear that. Yeah,
I'm
of
sure you do as
course.
well. Let's talk about, we spoke about income. Let's talk about property. So I think another video that you did, which caught my attention, was you said that shared ownership is a scam. Why do you think that?
Okay, it might have been a bit drastic in a scam, but I don't think that for people who want to go down the property ladder, it's the best option. One of the reasons being, bear in mind, I bought my residential property at 27, which was a big achievement for me. Took me a long time of saving and hustling to get the money together to buy it. And still to this day, it's one of my biggest achievements. And I think home ownership is a real positive. I know that there's a lot of controversy online about whether it's worth doing or not, or whether renting's better. With shared ownership, my issue is that you own part of the property and you have a mortgage in your own right, and then you have to pay rent on the part of the property that you don't own. That doesn't make any sense to me. Especially if you're renting an accommodation especially if you've bought accommodation like a flat, which has its own maintenance fees and service charges, that price that you end up paying is quite considerable. So for me, if it were me, I would try and save for longer, put in a deposit on a property for myself, and then pay the mortgage and build all that equity completely of my own. Because as you go through paying off your house, you will be building equity, but you have a lot that you're paying for every month. The interest rates can be very high. We know interest rates aren't great at the moment. I was lucky enough to get my mortgage just before Liz Truss and Kwasi Kwarteng kind of made things a bit more difficult for people, and for mortgage rates. But with high mortgage rates, you're paying rent and you're paying a mortgage. It just doesn't make sense to me. And then if you want to offload the property, you're offloading a part of a property. It's a lot more difficult to sell and get out of as well. But in the same breath, I understand that it can be an easier entry for people to own their own houses. Some people it works, and I know that there are cases where for some people it works. My fear is that, does it work more than it doesn't work? You know?
Yeah. So just for clarity, what are your tips for getting on the property ladder?
My tips for getting on the property ladder is to, okay, I'll tell you what I did. What I did was quite extreme. And in all honesty, I was helped by the lockdown. In lockdown, I didn't buy any clothes. I didn't buy any food. I was living at home with my parents. I was living in Woolwich the previous year with my friends, was paying a ridiculous amount in rent. So I decided I'm not going to do that anymore. They continued to live with each other. I went back home to my parents' house. I gave my parents some money, obviously, from work. I was 20, I think I started at 25 when lockdown happened. I was at work making £40,000 a year, which was great for my age at the time. So I didn't get haircuts. I didn't spend money on anything because I wasn't going anywhere. There was no need for me to do any of that. So because of that, I was able to save maybe 80% of my salary every month on just putting it aside. And then when we came out of lockdown, I was primed. Do you know what I mean? I was really primed. So for people who want to get on the property ladder, you can't escape the discipline and the hard work that's required for you to save the money unless you're making a load of money. There's no shortcut to it, in my opinion. Set budgets, set targets, checkpoints for what you want to save by what time. I honestly think one thing that's really important is to divest yourself of the emotional connection you have to materialistic things. A lot of people, I've been guilty of this as well. I think, Cortez has just made a new drop. This is exclusive. You have to have the password to sign into the website. Let me get I'm buying stuff for me. I'm buying stuff for my partner. We're going out. No one's got what I've got. I've got Trapstar jackets and this and that. I've got shoes on the night drops. I got downloaded the app so I can, do you know what I mean? I'm there. And in my head, it's like, yeah, this is what you're supposed to do. I've got money. I'm young. I've got money. This is what I'm supposed to. I'm supposed to spend it. But in reality, now, there's no brands on any of the things I wear. The only thing I wear Birkenstocks because they're very comfortable shoes. I'm not sponsored, but they're very comfortable shoes. I'll tell you one now. I'm either in Birkenstocks or I'm in Crocs. Because comfort for me now is the most important thing. I'm in my 30s now. Do you know what I mean? But I don't really have this clinging need to be looking the freshest, to be wearing the most clothes, to be driving the fanciest cars. It's not necessary for me. I drove a Hyundai i40 estate car for a long time. That's not a sexy car,
Yeah.
but it works.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So divesting myself of that emotional connection that I had to material things was important to me. And I think actually it's not just our generation that did this, because I've had conversations with my parents, and I know this is the case for a lot of first generation kids. They look at their parents and they're going, why do we have so much stuff in the house?
Oh my
Why is
goodness.
everyone hoarding
Yeah.
stuff? And it took me a while to realize, and I spoke to my mum and dad, I was like, you guys have so much stuff. They're saying to us, you guys are the reason that this house is full of crap.
Mm.
I'm going, I don't think so. We all left to go uni. We came back as the same way. Do you know what I mean? And in reality, what it was what it boiled down to, that I kind of concluded. Our parents came, at least from my parents came from St. Vincent in the Caribbean. They came with nothing, right? Not anything compared to the material world that you get in the West. They came with nothing. So when they had the money and the means to buy things, it could be as simple as a dress, a pair of shoes that they bought when they were 25. But there's an emotional connection because they remember not having anything.
Mm.
So they build an emotional connection to the material possession. And we perpetrate that as well by having an emotional connection to material things. And when I realized that actually that material thing has no true value to me, it doesn't make me any better of a person.
Mm.
It doesn't make me worse, but it doesn't make me any better of a person. But it can hinder me from getting the things that I want and achieving the goals that I need to, because I'm chasing the effect that me obtaining this thing gives me.
Yeah, and it's a really profound observation because, something people typically say is that we're not taught about, we don't receive financial education.
Yeah.
Whereas I kind of feel like we do. I feel like we get a financial education from the companies that are trying to sell us stuff in the
Yeah.
form of adverts.
Yes.
Like we can remember adverts from the 90s, to your point. We can
Yeah,
remember
yeah,
the
yeah.
celebrity that narrated them. We can remember the theme song. We can remember the jingles and stuff. We can remember the feeling we got when we saw the advert.
Mhm.
And so we've been taught how to consume.
Yes.
And they also push our emotional buttons at the
Mhm.
same time as well. So to kind of free yourself from that and to consume maybe things that you genuinely like or things that you genuinely need is it's just so freeing.
Yeah, I think so. I think, I speak to a lot of people. I've had a few clients that I do financial coaching with. And one question that pops up so much is, I'm thinking about getting a car on hire purchase. I'm thinking about getting a car on PCP. What do you think? And I always am just like, no, there's no reason for you to do that. You've just started driving. Why do you need a brand new car that you're going to pay £400-500 a month for 2 to 4 years? And then at the end of it, you've still got a balloon payment to pay.
Mm.
Why not just save up, create a sinking fund, buy a car that's useful to you, right? Build a relationship with the mechanic if the car's going wrong, and utilize it. I've had a car that we had PCP years ago, and I would never do it again. Never do it again. Now my cars are all bought outright. I bought myself a BMW 3 Series. I never had a German car before. I bought myself a BMW 3 Series. I bought it outright. And it never went wrong.
Mm.
I drive it all the time. I drove it to the train station today. It's great, but it doesn't need to cost me £500 per month. It doesn't cost me any money per month. Like only, tax and MOT and insurance and stuff. That it was going to cost you anyway. But I think we do need to be really deliberate with what we're spending money on.
I concur. I mean, I've probably shouldn't be saying this, but I've never owned a car. I passed my test, but I've never owned one. If most place I'm going is either public transport or bicycle.
You live in London, then, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't live in London.
Okay. I didn't know that about you.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. I live in one of the home counties.
Okay.
So for me, driving is kind of necessary.
You have to, yeah.
Yeah, and also I've got a daughter
Yeah.
that's 1 year old, so I can't do babies on public transport. Yeah.
Yeah, let's stay with that. Another thing you said online that I found very interesting was, unless you can free up £1,000 disposable in the UK, don't even think about having your first child. Could you please elaborate?
Okay, to be fair, it's not that I don't think people should have kids. My stance is, unless you can have £1,000 between you and your partner, you don't need to do it by yourself, but between you and your partner, £1,000 a month, I think, is enough for you to kind of make ends meet and give that child everything that they need. And if you can't raise that kind of capital every month, then maybe you should wait until you can. And the reason being that I don't think that you should bring a child into the world for it to struggle. And I don't think you should struggle. It's not fair on yourself as well as the parent. The reason I say that is currently, and it wasn't even always the case, only since this September, you now get 33 hours of childcare with a nursery with children under 2 years old. My partner, my fiance, took a year off to look after our child, and that was great. But now she's at a year, she's going back to work. My partner's an accountant, shout out to her. She has to go back to work, and we now have to think about nursery fees. And we work Monday through Friday. So you've got 33 hours, but that 33 hours is you have to either, especially with our nursery, you either have to split it through term time or the whole way through the year. If you do it through term time, you get 3 full days. If you do it through the whole year, you get 2 days plus some change hours. But then you have to pay for the remainder of that third day. And then for the other 2 days, that she gets a childminder that comes to our house and looks after her there. And we have to pay the nursery for the additional hours and her food every week. We've got to pay for the childminder to stay twice a week to cover her from 9 till 5 so that we can work. And then we've got to pay for food for her. We've got to pay for clothes. And to me, unless I have £1,000 every month to put towards that, it's not happening. It's just not. So if you want to be able to still maintain your standard of living and also give your child what they need, I think you need about £1,000. Some may say more, some may say less. It depends on your lifestyle. But I don't think we live a particularly ostentatious lifestyle. But £1,000 puts us in a comfortable position. And by the time she gets to primary school and secondary school, it's probably going to be more than that. But for now, I think, and as you grow with the child and you hopefully earn more money with the child, I think £1,000 before you do anything is a good start. And even then, if you're thinking about having children, create a sinking fund. Create a sinking fund from the get-go, because the buggies, the Moses baskets, the cribs, the car seats, it's a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot.
Does that 1,000 double when you then have a second child? Are you thinking about having a second child?
That's a good question. I don't think I don't think that £1,000 necessarily doubles, because I mean, from the outset, you kind of have a lot of the things that you need for that child already. You would repurpose most of it, as far as like the buggies and the car seats and stuff. Yeah, you're going to have to pay for, it depends on the gap between your children as well. If your child's in primary school, you don't have to pay for nursery 5 days a week, right? But then you will have to for the child. So the £1,000 might still be enough, maybe just over £1,000 to deal with clothes and stuff like that. But ultimately, it's just not cheap having kids. Would I have another child? Yes. I think currently me and my partner are discussing and doing the family planning behind that, because I don't take it lightly. I don't, even when we decided to have our daughter, it wasn't taken lightly. It was calculated. It was planned. So for my next child, if we do decide to have another child, it would be planned. And I would be in a financial position, and we would be in a financial position to facilitate that without impacting our current child's life and development. And that really is a big thing for us.
Thank you.
But also, and I will add this, having children, from my experience over the past year, because my daughter's only 1 year and 2 months old, there is so much you can't control. And it takes a real emotional burden. I'm not burden, but it takes a real emotional toll on you. Burden's not the right word. It takes a real emotional toll. And I think I wasn't completely aware of that. You have a child and you expect everything to kind of be okay. You expect to struggle with not sleeping through the night, or maybe the child is restless and, struggling balancing work and parenthood. But you also have the health implications that you can't control. You don't know what that child's health is going to be like. And we've had like scares and things that kind of keep you up at night. And that's not something that I considered before I had a child. And I don't think a lot of people do, because it's not something that you see very often. Like, you might see the odd person who has a child that's got a disability or a learning difficulty, but when you're actually in it and you think about how you have to move around your life to accommodate for that, and also the toll it has on you, especially me as the father, who I'm still working through all the maternity, still working through all of the pregnancy, like running my business. finding the time to be there and support not just my child, but my partner through those difficult health scares and things that can happen, it can be a lot.
Thank you for sharing that. We did talk about that the last time we met up. So I really appreciate that. I was thinking of another question as you were speaking about your daughter. And correct me if I'm wrong, but you're from St. Vincent. Your partner, fiance, is Nigerian.
She is, yeah.
So how do you approach raising a child within a blended culture when one of you is Caribbean and the other's African?
That's a good question. I think there's quite a lot of similarities in the cultures. I think that's one thing. And also, I think because we're the same religion, that can have a real, it's a real benefit to us. Like our mums get along like a house on fire. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they have their own relationship, which I think is really great. My parents and my fiance have a great relationship. Me and her parents have a great relationship. And I think what's also really good for us is that a lot of my friends are Nigerian and West African and African in general, and a lot of her friends are West Indian. So we had a very good understanding of the culture before we got together. And there's been compromises, right? I never got the first name. I didn't get the first name, but I got the last.
Okay.
Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think it's important to be accommodating. And I know that my partner, she's got all sisters. So the last name in tradition wouldn't necessarily be passed on to any of their children. So for me, she's Yoruba. And I think it was kind of important for our child to have a Yoruba name so that she can continue and understand who she is and know who she is. And I mean, we still had the back and forth with it with, you know, me being from the Caribbean was like, cool, I need to be able to pronounce this word really well. Like, no, I'm not. Like, I'm being completely honest with you. I need to be able to pronounce this name really well.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to introduce my child and have someone going, no, that's not how you pronounce that.
Yeah.
So we landed on a name that I was really happy with. And I love the meaning of it. And I love... now I call her it's just, you know, commonplace. My family who are of Caribbean descent, who've never really had to call, like, they don't know many Nigerian people, but they know the name very well. Their pronunciation is very good. And those are the things that are important, right? And that was something that was really important to me. And I'm glad that she has that. And then, you know, we listen to a lot of Afrobeats in our house. We have a lot of conversations about Nigerian culture and Nigerian politics and the music, because I'm a massive Afrobeats fan, and she's a massive dancehall, bashment, reggae fan as well. So we complement each other quite well in that regard. So it's not really too much of a hassle, I don't think.
Yeah, you haven't surprised me at all. Like you're intentional when it comes to business, and you've been just as intentional when it comes to family and who gets the first name, who gets the surname, being able to pronounce it. Because I've got some. I have a friend who's called like Sheung, and like that's really difficult for British people to pronounce and stuff.
Yeah.
So, I think it's really good that you've considered all of that. Also, because I think that when it comes to wealth, yes, wealth is like monetary, but I also think it's like culture and the traditions and the things that you pass on too.
For sure.
So we've spoken about pay, we've spoken about property, we've spoken about family. I'd love to talk to you about investing. At the moment, you are doing kind of like a 30 days of investing terminology series of content. So I guess my question is two parts to it. Why don't more of us invest from the community, in your opinion? And then how can we start to do that?
I think one of the barriers to investment is terminology and language. I think it's a big one. And I think sometimes we hear the terminology and we switch off. And even I found this in doing the 30 days of investing terms that you should know. People have been messaging me over and over again, teach us about investing. I want content about investing. And I've created 30 days of investing terms, and I've broken down everything from understanding what an index fund is, an ETF is, what market corrections are, what bonds are, what equity means. And in reality, while the first video did quite well, the other subsequent videos have not done very well. The videos I do in between, fine. But I think sometimes investing, while the outcome can be very sexy, the process is not so
It's not.
sexy. And I do think it stems from the language used. It's like a different language. Investing is literally like a different language. And to understand exactly how to move your money and invest in this and figuring out what the best strategies and techniques are, I think people can really switch off unless you can put it in the simplest terms. But even then, you're not really guaranteed for people to follow. There is an argument to say that maybe the way that I'm delivering it could be better, and we can, we change and transition and try to improve on that. But by and large, I think sometimes when you get too deep into the technicalities of investing, some people can shut off.
Okay. So let's simplify it for people then.
Mhm.
If you were speaking to someone who'd never invested before, how can you begin to start to do that?
The way that I was kind of put on to investing, bear in mind, I had no idea about investing until COVID time. And one of my friends, I went to university with, he went to private school, but and we'd never really spoken about money before, but he was talking to me about the halvening of crypto and the halvening of Bitcoin. And I'd never heard about it at all. And I was just like, oh my God, that's crazy. Like, you hear about Bitcoin in passing, but I was like, that's interesting. And I started to do my research and I was like, how do I actually do it? He's like, oh, download this app and then do this and da da da. And I'm like, okay, cool. So I started. And I think the way that I would describe investing for someone who has no real background or knowledge in it is it's a way to put your money to work. And it is probably the most effective way to beat inflation erosion, to counteract your money just wasting away. And a lot of people see it as gambling. And I see this a lot. I did a live yesterday when they're going, oh my God, investing is gambling. And I'm thinking, well, not really, because with investing, there's an underlying asset. When you invest in, say, Tesla, you're buying a share in the company that exists. It's a risk in the same way that you opening a business, there's a risk that it fails and a risk that it's, or on the other end of that is successful. But I don't think that it's the same as gambling. And that I think is an important distinction to make. And I think that also is a part of the reason why people are fearful of it is because they see it as, oh, well, I could lose my money. I had a client who spoke to me about doing an SIPP and they sold all of their positions because they thought the market would crash. And I was like, that doesn't make any sense. Obviously, you can be fearful that the market may drop in price, but as soon as you sell, you realize that loss.
Crystallize it, yeah.
So, and then if you want to buy back in, you're going to have to pay more for it, right? And you worsen your position. So I think people sometimes want the get rich quick, and that's not what it is. I think you need to look at investing from a long-term perspective for a way to galvanize your finances going forward. And if we're completely honest, if you've got a workplace pension, you're investing. If you've, do you know what I mean? If you have a pension, you're investing. State pension works slightly differently, but if you've got workplace pension, which most people have to do automatically, right? You are investing already. So why not also utilize that with the money that you have to your benefit, especially if you can do it in a stocks and shares ISA where it's tax-free. And that's kind of the message I'm trying to push to people. Like, there is a real gift here that we're not using out of ignorance, I think, in a lot of instances, or because it seems too difficult to explain. But also, I don't think that it's particularly made palatable in a lot of instances.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And I love that you touched upon language because when you think about the number of, first you've got the jargon and this thing of investing being a different language, VWRP, ETF, for example. What the hell does that mean? Which is just like a global index tracker fund, essentially. But then you've also got all the risk warnings and the disclaimers. And something that really grinds my gears is the fact that telling someone, like, we are not allowed, we've both done exams, we're both really knowledgeable, we're not allowed to go online and say, put £25 a month into an index fund, because that's financial advice. That's telling people what to do. But what you can say is go to the shop and buy 50 pairs of shoes. Buy an iPhone every year. Buy a games console, like consume. And that's a guaranteed way to lose your money.
Yeah,
Do you
yeah,
know what I
yeah.
mean? But you can't tell people to do something that's sustainable.
Well, I do think it's interesting because I did see content recently, and it was a really good video and concept, I thought, where they said for every video that you make that's about investing, you have to put this warning: capital at risk, capital at risk. This is not financial advice. And I think, okay, but then there's no kind of warning about just leaving loads of money in a bank account. There's billions in UK current accounts earning no interest. Warning: inflation will eat your money.
Yeah.
Inflation will chop your money.
Yeah.
Like, it's going to disappear. Why is there no warning about that? Do you know what I mean?
And then
like,
you look at what banks do with people's money.
yeah, and they're investing it.
Right?
They're investing it. And they're not giving you any of it.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is, people will sit there with 90, 100K. They got an investment, they got inheritance for 100K. They got it sat in a current account.
Yeah.
You know that you're only covered by the FCSC to 85K.
Yeah.
So if everything goes tits up, which it has done in the past, let's not say it's impossible. It has done in the past.
Why it was set up.
Right.
Yeah.
You're only getting 85K back out of that. You could have 300 grand. You're not seeing the rest of it. 85K. Right. Unless you're spreading it in different places. So at least with your investing, and what I think is important to understand as well, is once you've invested in something, you own that portion of the asset. Until you sell it, it's still yours. It could reduce in value, but it's still yours. And I always use this analogy of ice cream man. And when people go to sell their investments cheap, I say, if you're an ice cream man and you've bought a load of ice creams for £1 each, and you go out onto the beach and you sell them for £2.50 when it's sunny, because you've got loads of demand, they're worth £2.50. You got a heat wave now, they're worth £3 because people are willing to pay £3 for it. Now there's a rainstorm for 2 days. You go outside, no one's there. Right now, your ice cream's only worth 20p because that's what you can sell it for, because no one wants it because it's raining. Do you then choose to sell all of your ice cream stock for 20p and make a loss of 80p? Or do you hold it, wait for the weather to turn hot again, and sell them for 250?
Yeah, I love that. I've never heard that analogy before. I think that's spot on. Yeah. Yeah, I think hopefully with more conversations like this, people will begin to normalize investing, and like with your series as well. And I think a lot of it's to do with comfortability, because you know, if you're paying into an index fund monthly, particularly if you're doing it via direct debit, it's no different to subscribing to like Spotify or Netflix. It's just an automatic payment.
Well, I think there's also a gap where, and I had to go over this as well, where when I take my money out of my current account and put it in my investments account or my stocks and shares ISA, you almost feel like you've spent that money. Like, I could better use that money buying the things that make me happy. But I now, like, it's still my money. Like, it's not gone anywhere. It's just invested on my behalf. If I want to reach back and grab that money, I can. And I think that's also an important distinction to make for people. Just because you've put it into the stock market doesn't mean it's gone. It's still yours. Right? You haven't spent it. Right? But you're just putting it over here for it to work for you. And it works when you're awake. It works when you're asleep. It's constantly doing its thing. Right. And I think that's important. That's why we do the pound cost averaging. And I think that's an important technique and methodology for people to understand when it comes to investing.
I want to talk to you about the big one, life insurance.
Life insurance, okay.
So you did a post where you said that a way for the community to build generational wealth is if all of us got life insurance.
Yes.
Could you break that down for us?
Yeah, I mean, it's not life insurance is a way for you to leave behind a legacy. And it's a way for you to alleviate a lot of the stresses that you can leave behind when you go. So, for example, if you were the main breadwinner and you pass away, how do your family then continue on without you? There's instances that I know of personally whereby it's a 2-parent household and the male partner is the main breadwinner. The wife stays at home. She hasn't worked for 20 odd years. She's got kids that have flown the nest. And then the partner dies. The main breadwinner dies. How does she then continue to create money? Continue to pay the mortgage? It becomes more difficult. And this is the situation that a lot of people find themselves in. With life insurance, you can have life insurance set up to pay off the rest of your mortgage if there is anything left to pay. You can have life insurance set up, if you've got whole of life insurance, whenever you pass away, there's a fixed sum of money that will be paid out. If you set up in trust, there'll be no inheritance tax to pay, or if you set up in the right trust, there'll be no inheritance tax to pay. And that money can just be used by your family to support themselves, and also then be used for your children to go and start their lives, or for them to set up lives for their grandchildren, whatever it may be. But I think that life insurance is something that we don't always prioritize because it's difficult. I don't want to call it selfish, but we tend not to worry about things that we can't directly benefit from, right? Because all life insurance is paid out after we pass away, we directly don't benefit from it, but our loved ones do. And I think if all Black people had life insurance policies, then no one's house is getting repossessed after the main breadwinner dies. No one is being left without. Like, that could be a key way for people's grandchildren and children to pay off their student loans, to be getting themselves out of debt, get on the property ladder. And if you think every family does this, all of a sudden now we are in a completely different bracket, and it could happen over one generation.
How can people get life insurance?
They can get life insurance through a financial advisor. They could get life insurance through an insurance broker. They can get life insurance directly from the insurance company, and fill out their forms. And if they want to open it in trust, you can actually do that with directly through the insurance broker. A lot of people like myself, you can actually get a lot of insurances through the banks that you already bank with, which is a nice and easy way. You can get it, like, for example, I have a mortgage with a building society, and they offer mortgages. So if you pass away during the term of your mortgage, then we will just wipe off your mortgage, and away you go. You know, your family will still be able to live in their house without having to pay anything, just like council tax and bills and stuff.
Yeah, and that was a similar thing for me. So I got my life insurance policy at the time of buying a house, and I got it through an insurance broker. One of the things that I thought was pretty cool was how willing the insurance broker was to work with me to my budget.
Right.
So it's like, if you'd like to be covered for this much and you have this much to spend on it, here's what you could get with the amount of money you could get. So it's not like it's a fixed amount. You can actually have a conversation with them about that.
For sure.
I'll ask you one more question and then we'll come to the final question. So I would love to talk to you about what I believe in some Vincentian culture you call Susu.
Yeah, Susu.
So how does that system work?
My Susu came in this month. It was sweet.
Oh, you're in one.
Yeah. I'm in one. I'm in one with my family.
Okay.
My Susu came in this month. I was caking. I'm feeling very good.
Nice.
So Susu is called different things in different cultures. For Nigerians, you guys call it ajo.
Yep.
For Jamaicans, I think they call it partners.
Yep.
We call it Susu, and it's like a way of saving money, where each month you have a fixed amount and you pay it into the person who manages the Susu. And each month that everyone pays into the pot, that pot then goes to one person. So depending on how many people you have in the Susu or the partner or the ajo, and how much you put in there, the amount that is dished out is going to be slightly different. Can be small, could be big. But yeah, I do it with my family. I think also in the Muslim religion, they also do a form of this because they can't have interest. So this is a great way to save money without interest. But yeah, I think it's a fantastic way to save money. I mean, realistically, it doesn't work for everyone. If you're looking to get interest on your savings, then it's not going to work for you. But if you are someone who is not the best at managing your money, and if you save money and you see it's there, you spend it, then it can be a great way of taking that temptation away. And then when you need that lump sum, you can have it for different periods throughout the year.
Yeah. And you just need to have a lot of trust with the other contributors to it as
well.
well.
You do. Yeah. I do mine with my family. Obviously, I know my family very well, like my immediate nuclear family. So ours has never had an issue, and that is a risk factor. So make sure you do it with people that you trust.
Yeah.
But I think it's a great tool to use. I use it along with my investing and other things, and it works.
Thank you so much for coming on today. I think I've learned a lot from you. I knew I was going to, but what I didn't predict was that I was going to learn the most from the parenting piece.
Okay.
Because I got engaged this year. And
I know, congratulations. I saw that, yeah.
And we talk about starting a family maybe nearly every day. So
Oh, wow.
we're just trying to gather as much intel and much advice from people as possible. But that thing that you said about not really understanding the toll that parenting takes on you until you've done it, like that stayed with me for sure. So thank you for sharing that.
No, you're welcome.
The final question goes to all
Yes.
guests,
Okay.
and it
Hit
is:
me.
what does black wealth mean to you?
What does black wealth mean to me? I think by definition, wealth is to have an abundance of something valuable. And I think when it comes to black people, there's so many areas in which our value is abundant. One such area is our control of popular content, our control of popular narrative. We, in a very big way, dictate what is seen to be cool, what is seen to be in, and we have an appreciation for other people's cultures, and we have an appreciation for so many different things that we, I think, elevate. And I don't think you can go anywhere in the world where people aren't influenced by black people in some way or another. But I do think that there are things that we can do to accompany that wealth to kind of make it more beneficial to us. And I think it starts with ownership. I know that this is the case with especially like the hair care industry, and hair care is very important to black people. But I don't think that it's so black dominated all the time. I think we've always had like back and forths about hair care shops owned by people of other races, designed purely for black people, and we spend a lot of money on hair care, right? I personally, I have a black barber. I could go to any other barber and they could probably do my haircut. My haircut's not super complex. But I go to a black barber, he charges £25, I pay him 30 because he is someone in my community that is part of ownership of that skill set. And that's important to me. So I want to not just support, but go above and beyond to support. When I see the black community and the power that they have, right? When I look at the beehive and you look at the barbs and you look at in popular culture, how impactful both the black women at the heads of those fan bases are, and then the impact that those fan bases can have on the rest of the entertainment industry is crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I think black women are some of the most influential people on the planet.
100%.
Like, they're incredible. And I think it's important to me that we continue to spread that beyond the realms of entertainment. I think there weren't many people like us who were making finance content and creating ownership and brand ownership in that space of financial content and in that space of careers content and current affairs and news. And I think it's important that we start to maximize our holding in that space. And we already have the eyes, we have the influence, we have the skill set. And I think we need to double down.
Ownership
for sure.
John, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.